Hello, all. This is Dr. Dave Maslach talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3. And in this particular video, I'm going to talk to you about when most PhDs quit or potential PhDs quit. All right. So if you don't know me, I'm an associate professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There were so many people that helped me out to get through graduate school that I wanted to pay the favor forward and help you out. So when most people think about science and think about becoming a PhD, they are often very, very young. There is a large emphasis in policy right now to encourage people at elementary school or middle school or even high school to go into scientific endeavors and to become the next professor or work with the next Einstein or encourage people to go into different directions where they become much more academic. Maybe it's going into medicine, for example. Maybe it is going into engineering, for example, and creating some new design concept. But the problem is, I think we're missing the boat with much of this emphasis on focusing on people as early scientists, right? So early scientists are maybe people that are in high school and younger. I think that there is a emphasis, or we're missing the boat on where most people are actually not succeeding with their trajectory. And it's just the way that we've sort of set up academia. It's the way that we've set up sort of the way that most people do education. Currently, right now, it's kind of set up as kind of like a selection mechanism, which is cool, which is great. And I'm not complaining about it in any sort of way, right? It's supposed to be tough, and only the best people are supposed to get through at these different stages, right? So I just want to go through in terms of where we can sort of grow and develop as a field or as scientists, and where I think most people can use a little bit of just encouragement that they're doing the right thing when they are going in these different directions, and not to quit when the going gets tough, right? So the first thing is most people are going to quit their sort of trajectory to become a PhD or to become an academic in any sort of way is much later on. And I think the reason is because, kids are really excited about the world. When they start off, exploring the world, they're playing around, they explore on a regular basis. So they understand what it means to explore the world, in that when you try something, it is not going to immediately come out to something that is perfect in any sort of way, right? And there is a lot of encouragement to explore and to learn different things around the world with them, right? So as kids, you really want to explore and try different things. But as we grow older and we realize when we start exploring more complex sort of systems and complex things, it becomes harder to see where our action, the thing that we're doing and the thing that we're trying, actually comes out with some sort of positive reward, right? So let me give you an example. When you start high school, most people don't really think about the outcome of, like, let's just say maybe it's 5 years out or 10 years out where you're going to be because you've done all this different things in high school. Most people are just kind of focused on their day-to-day stuff, right? So with kids, it's the same way. They're focused on their day-to-day stuff, but there's immediate rewards that happen with them, or immediate punishments, basically, when things happen to them. And it becomes clear in how to actually learn and motivate yourself to get to the next thing. So with the stuff that in terms of the way that science is depicted, when you are in elementary school and in middle school, it's almost like an idealized perspective, right? Where you do something and immediately you do the right experiment and this really cool thing that happens, and everything kind of works out, and it's really this kind of wonderful thing. The problem is that we're not showing that most people, to sort of figure out to get from this particular sort of scientific experiment or this thing that you've tried or that you've worked on, might take somebody actually 25 years to get to the point where they actually get to this wonderful outcome, where we understand something about the world that we didn't understand before, and we can sort of manipulate the world to get this really wonderful, cool thing to happen, right? Some really wonderful, maybe it's some plastic, for example, to form. It takes people 25 years, and it takes groups of people around the world many, many, many years to get to the point where we actually have this really cool outcome and we can share with other people around the world. So I think emphasizing that this stuff is hard, it's not easy, we don't have immediate rewards in any sort of way, is a positive thing. And to recognize that it's just a lot of hard work when you are in academia, when you're in high school, when you're in your first years of university or college, when you're in grad school. It's just a lot of hard work that you got to go through to get to the point where you actually can make a discovery and come up with something that's really cool and exciting. Um, so I think this comes to my second sort of point that I wanted to discuss, is that it is not a motivation problem. It's not the reason why people are quitting their PhDs. It's not because that they don't want to get to the point where they actually have a PhD, or that they are a professor at, for me, a business school or an engineering school or whatever it is. They really want to do that. Most people want to do that. It's just like when you are in, elementary school, you really want to become a scientist. That's really something that you want to do. But it's the behavioral stuff that happens in between that sort of discourages you to go from one perspective. And that might be a reason the reason why there's not a lot of females that are going into scientific endeavors, although that is changing, especially in a lot of different fields. Veterinary science, for example, there's tons of females that are going in that perspective or into that particular domain. And the reason is that there's all these little things that you encounter as a person, right? So for example, if you're a female budding scientist, and over the course of many years, people give you little hints that maybe you should do this kind of science rather than that kind of science. Or you look at marketing around you, right? So there's going to be marketing with females towards like things like ponies, right? Or animals. And with guys, or with boys, it's going to be marketing towards things like, machines and, engineering things or building things. There's going to be subtle differences that encourage people over time to go in one particular domain, right? And it's the same thing that happens when you are doing your PhD or you're in graduate school. It's tough to keep going against the grain or keep pushing in a particular direction. It is really hard to go in that particular direction repeatedly when people are giving you subtle hints that the thing that you're doing is not correct, right? So every conference paper you submit, every journal article that you submit and comes back and you get a rejection of like, okay, this doesn't work out. This is not the right thing that you're working on. Most people are going to get discouraged and not keep working through that thing. It's not necessarily a motivation thing. It's just that over time, your behavior changes slightly and you stop losing that sort of gumption to keep going because is really hard. So if you can encourage the behaviors, the sort of subtle things to keep going, that's going to make you a big difference, right? So for example, with the gender issue, and I'm not a scientist in that kind of area at all. And so if I'm misspeaking, it's, just make sure it's water off your back or whatnot. I'm not trying to be mean in any sort of way, but if we can sort of nudge, maybe it is males to start looking at, ponies a little bit more and encouraging them to play with ponies when they're younger, or with females, encouraging them to play with, maybe it's Legos a little bit. And I've noticed that Lego is actually marketing to females now, which is really cool. They have like pink blocks and stuff like that, which is cool that they're doing that. That's going to sort of slowly change people's motivations and behaviors towards going in those kind of directions, right? So it's the same thing in science, the same sort of experiences you're going to go through. If you just have subtle pushes to say, you know what? You're going to get rejections. It's going to be tough. And just keep moving forward in that direction. Just keep tweaking it until it sort of clicks. Then you want to keep going with the thing that you're doing, right? A third thing that I think is related and is very important, and people don't quit doing this kind of stuff because that they are motivated or unmotivated to go in a particular direction. They quit because of the emotions of feeling afraid, feeling alone, feeling not that they belong with the stuff that they're doing. That's the main reason that I've seen most people quit going in these directions. They think that it is too hard for them, and they're the only ones that have actually experienced this, and that they think that they are doing the wrong thing and they don't know what to do next. And I think if we can just keep telling people that it is okay to have these experiences, to keep moving forward and taking that one little step forward, I think that's going to make a big difference in terms of encouraging people to become scientists, more people to become scientists. Is not because that they weren't excited about it at one point. It's because they go and they experience this moment of, I've got to come up with this particular theory or come up with this particular hypothesis or come up with this experiment that I haven't got a clue in what I'm supposed to do. But guess what? Everybody feels like that. I feel like that on a daily basis, that I'm really afraid on a regular basis about, am I doing the right thing? Is this thing the right thing? If I do this calculation in this way, am I missing something? If I actually work on this particular regression analysis or some analytical technique in this particular way, are people going to criticize me? Are they going to out me as a fraud? I think like that on a regular basis, and I don't think I am alone. A lot of people think like this. It is very difficult not to think like this when you're doing those things for the first time, and you're always doing that stuff for the first time. But just know that you just got to keep moving forward. And you know what? Maybe in 10 years, somebody's going to out you as a fraud, or in 10 years, somebody is going to say, all that stuff that you've done is totally wrong. Well, so be it, right? At least you made a difference and you pushed us in the right direction towards making a different discovery that we wouldn't have made before. The other thing that I think is missing from this whole conversation, and that's why I'm doing a lot of these YouTube videos now, is that the whole notion of what it is to be a scientist, to be a professor, to be an academic is totally idealized in this world, right? We think of them as Bill Nye, that we're coming up with all these wonderful experiments on a regular basis, that we kind of, all we have to do is push this button and all of a sudden all these things kind of work and it just looks wonderful, right? So the way that it's depicted on the movies and TV, that's not really reality in any sort of way. We have kids, we have families, we have all these different obligations. We're torn in many different ways. And it's a complete mess with the stuff we're working on. And I haven't got a clue what I'm working on a regular basis. I'm just making stuff up as I'm going. And it's really kind of scary in terms of feeling like that you are just making things up and you're being torn in all these different directions. And I have all these different demands of doing this, but I want to do the right thing, but I just don't know how to actually do the right thing on a regular basis. And just know that when you're going through these experiences, and you want to quit for whatever reasons, just know that there is other people. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just, Dr. Maslach that is experiencing this kind of stuff. And I'm just the lone nut. Me and you are the lone nut right now that is having these experiences. But I don't think so. I think that there's more people that are going through these different experiences and feeling like this on a regular basis. And that's what's encouraging them to quit, because they feel that they are not doing the right thing, or they believe that they're not doing the right thing, because in their mind, this is the way that a real scientist or a real PhD should behave, and that we should work on a regular basis all night long and do all these all-nighters, work for 72 hours straight, because that's what I heard that Einstein did, or something like that. That's hogwash. At the end of the day, you have to realize that real people have to do real things, and real life gets in the way. And that's okay when real life gets in the way. Just know that you just got to keep going back to it and keep working for it, doing that one little sentence. Maybe it's that one little word more. That's going to keep you going towards completing your PhD journey, whatever it is, and where you want to go. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is, we often hear about scientists, right? Then especially in the media, we talk about scientists say this, or academics say this, or professors say this. But that's not true at all. That's not at all. It's a discussion of what happens. We don't have this sort of idealistic notion or generic term of what it means to be a scientist or what it means to be a professor. We're all making stuff up, and we are all going in different directions. So the stuff I study, even though that I might be studying strategy and innovation and entrepreneurship, and I can maybe call myself that, but I know that there is many more people that understand entrepreneurship more than I do. I know that there is many more people that understand strategy, business strategy, a heck of a lot more than I do. And they are knowing it really well in different areas is the key, right? So I know things in some areas more than other people. And I'm the only person in the world that know that kind of stuff in that particular area because I've read a bunch of sort of individual articles and individual sort of scientific things in those particular areas. And so I kind of understand that stuff pretty well, or, maybe it's better than most people. But there's other people, scientists that are doing strategy, for example, or professors that are doing strategy, and they know things way better than I do in other areas. So I don't, for example, corporate strategy, right? So thinking about big business, right? The HPs, the IBMs, and all that kind of stuff. I know that stuff, but I don't know it, right? Like I'm not really into it so much as some other people that are just like, that's what they breathe, right? They know everything about diversification and things like that. I know it, I kind of understand it, but I don't know it. And that's what you have to get used to, is that we have these, generic notions of what it means to become a scientist, or, whatever it is, but it's really an individual journey, and we're all going in different directions, and we all have our own trajectory, and we're all doing our individual personalized things. And we all just kind of have to accept that there really isn't a real scientist out there. And what we're doing is all just making stuff up. We're trying to do things as best as we can, and that's good, but we're all just being ourselves, and we all sort of write in our own sort of ways, and that's totally okay. You have to sort of know that that is okay. All right. So in terms of why, most people are going to quit their PhDs, it's not because of the sort of motivation issues and the way that we're sort of framing the discussion right now, that if you're motivated enough that you can persevere and get through all of this, and then you're going to be the next Einstein at the end of you're going to be the smartest person in the whole wide world kind of thing. That's not what the real issue is. It's not a motivation thing. It's not, people are really wanting to do this kind of stuff. It's a behavioral thing. It is really tough. It is difficult. It's an information thing that we just don't have the information currently available to say that, real people are doing this real stuff. And this real stuff is tricky. Most people don't understand it. Even the people that are trying to actually do it are trying to, piece it together, but it's tough to sort of piece that together. And if we start breaking down these barriers, if we start removing all of this stuff and making it more real and making it, this is real stuff. People are really messing around with things, and it's difficult to do this kind of stuff. The more that we're going to encourage people to keep going forward and keep pushing at the stuff that they really like to do. And if we can create mechanisms and create technologies that allow people to share these experiences, to be open with these experiences, then I think we're going to encourage more scientists, right? Because it's not the fact that people weren't motivated early on to become the next scientist. It's simply because it gets hard, it gets difficult, and we don't see these rewards into the very, very, and much into the future, until 30, 40 years into the future, and we start seeing these rewards of the things that we've done. That's what we have to be working on, is encouraging people to keep moving forward, to keep taking those steps forward, and just knowing that they're not some weird person that is having all these experiences, that they are real people experiencing these real things and wanting to quit on a regular basis. Yeah, that's totally normal, but you got to keep going. You got to take the next step forward, right? So even if you want to quit, That's totally okay. But I want you to think about this. I really want you to think about the next sort of what you do today. And that's all I want you to focus on, is not what you're going to do over the next year. That's too far out. I want you to think about what you're going to do today in terms of what you, as a person, as an individual, if you're wanting to quit right now, what you should be doing. I want you to just think about the rewards for academia, the rewards of the things that you're doing right now. Don't come today. That's not what's going to happen at all. It's a really tough thing. I'm going to tell you that right now. If you're struggling with this, the rewards come 30 years in the future. And that is what you're looking at. And just know that those rewards, what you're giving up today, it's a delayed gratification thing. So you're giving up a little bit, right? So you can go and play outside and have fun. And that is okay, right? I'd encourage you to do that on a regular basis, but know that if you give up just a little bit of that and you keep going with the trajectory that you're doing, that in 30 years, or maybe it's in 10 years, then the amount of play that you can have, the things that you can do, is exponentially larger. And the problems that you solve are so much more important, and the things that you've done are so much more important because of the stuff that you've done and you worked at. There's so many things that you can do as an individual, and there's so many problems that you solve because of the things that you're working on. I want you to try to keep being optimistic with what you're trying to do. It is difficult with what you're trying to do, but I want you to realize that it is a wonderful thing. You're really in a moment of your time where you're working at something that you really truly want to do, right? It is something that you've always wanted to do, always wanted to try, and that's a wonderful thing. Even though it's tough and is discouraging, you're doing the thing that you want to do. And the last thing, this is the third thing I want you to do, and this is really important for you to do today. I want you to take one small step, whatever it is. Write one line on a piece of paper and say that that is good enough. That's all I want you to do today. And if you could do that one small step, and you do that every day for a long time, you can actually accomplish the thing that you want to accomplish. All right, take care. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Yeah, looking forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye.